Hello everybody, BigPlanes here, and today I have another update video for you on the American Airlines DC-10 project. Now, before I get into this video, I would like to give a shout out to all of my patrons who are supporting the channel over on Patreon. Thank you to everybody who's supporting the channel over on Patreon. You guys are one of the main reasons why I'm even able to build these large jets. So yes, if you want to go support the channel on Patreon, I will leave a link in the description to that. So, yeah. Another update video. It's been about a week, a little over a week since the last update video, and I thought it would be about time to show you what I've been up to over this last week. Now, it's not all good news, unfortunately. I have not been able to completely get this working, but I have been able to get a lot of it to work, and I do have a plan for how I'm going to get the whole thing to work. So let me go into detail on that. So, in this last video, or in the previous video, I had completed the center wing box in the full wing. I've detached the wings in this video just for ease of demonstration, but the new stuff in this one is all of the forward nose section, so everything from here forward. Now, of course, this has some of the most challenging parts in the entire model. In fact, I would even argue that this is some of the most challenging things I have ever done, period, amongst all of my planes, because what I am attempting to do is, through the control of a single app, I'm trying to at least control all of the landing gear functions on this airplane. Now, I've gone over this in previous videos. I've demonstrated how these gear back here work in a previous video, but the next step to tackle the other half of the equation, if you will, is up here, the nose gear. Now, as I've found out the hard way over this last week, this is the significantly harder second half of the equation, unfortunately, because not only does this have to function, which I'll get into how that functions in a second, but it has to function off of the same motors that have to power these gear, because I am not going to put a second set of motors in battery packs up here. So everything has to function off of the batteries and motors that are all housed in this assembly back here, which means that the timing has to be exactly in sync with these. The torque has to be exactly in sync with those. The gear ratio has to be exactly the same, because I cannot run the motors longer to get this gear to go in further while those gears have already been fully retracted. See how that works? So everything here has to be perfectly timed with one another, and that is one of the most challenging things, just period, when it comes to this. And of course, the second most challenging part of this is all of the door sequences up here. So I'm trying to do this without adding an additional motor, because that adds unnecessary complexity, and the best part is no part. So I'm trying to do this using tension and rubber bands, using a more passive system. And I've tried for days to get this to work, and unfortunately, I was not able to get this entire thing to work. Now, these rear doors here, I got these to work, and I got the actual gear assembly to swing up and down in sync with these gears. So a lot of this has already been solved, which is good. But the thing that's been holding me up is, how do I activate these two forward doors? Because the two forward doors act differently than these two doors right here. The two forward doors remain shut most of the time, because you don't see those when the plane's sitting on the ground. You see these two little doors right here that are open when the landing gear is out, but you don't tend to see these two doors right here because they close. But the sequence that they need to run off of is these doors right here, when the gear is retracting, need to open up, let the gear in, and then close again. And then when the gear is extending, they need to open, let the gear out, and then close again. So that sequence is different from this sequence, and I had initially planned to do that using rubber bands. You can see that I'm using rubber bands here. If the camera will focus, ooh, there we go. I'm using rubber bands here to tension these doors, and that works great, because the way this works is when the gear reaches the point right here, it pushes these two doors out of the way and holds them open, and then when the gear goes back in, these doors just default to being shut. And this right here, the main system, I'm going to try my best to show you this. There you go. You can see the main bogie itself actually runs on a worm gearbox, which is great because that provides a lot of torque, and I'm able to run an axle that goes all the way up here back to the center wing section. Of course, everything's blurry right now because it's focusing on my hand, so apologize for that. See if I can refocus the camera here. Kind of it's struggling, but either way, yeah, so that's where I'm at right now with this. And I will show you in a quick second how this works. And I do have a plan for how I'm going to get these two forward doors to work, and it involves having to basically run a second axle up the fuselage to the second motor, because right now I'm only using the first motor. I'm only using motor number 1, the same motor that powers the two bogies back here. I'm using that motor to power this, and I was hoping that I could also use it to have a passive system that opens and closes all these doors, but unfortunately there's just not enough torque in that motor. It's just not powerful enough. So what I'm going to basically have to do is run a second axle all the way back to the second motor that powers these doors back here, because by coincidence these doors are on the exact same sequence as these doors in terms of when they open and when they close. So all I really need to do is figure out a way to power these two axles right here, and I'll probably have to run a gear shaft all the way back here and then down, and it's going to be a very complicated procedure, but I'm planning on doing that hopefully by the next video or maybe the video after that. But enough talking, I'm going to demonstrate how this works. It's still a little bit jittery right now, but it works, the whole thing. And so, yes, here we go. I'm going to show you how this works exactly right now. Just press go. Oh, wait, I had this in the wrong order. Sorry about that. 8 seconds. There we go. Okay, now we go. Alright, so you can see that the nose gear retracted. Again, the focus on this camera has been not great. There we go. You can see the nose gear did retract, and these two doors did shut behind it because they're rubber band loaded. I didn't bother to hook up these two doors right now. I'm just running the bogey sequence, so these doors are not programmed to close. I'm just doing this for testing purposes. But yes, you can see that's how all that works. It works pretty nicely. Still a little jittery up there towards the front, but that's just more of a matter of smoothing out certain gear connections and all that, because I've been doing a lot of work with this plane, so yeah. So that worked pretty well, I'm happy to say. So that part has been more or less solved. But again, the big challenge at this point is going to be getting these two forward doors to close. Now, in a worst case scenario, I could just forego having these doors on here, but I think I would prefer to have doors here because I want all of the functions to be exactly the same as they are on the real airplane, which includes having opening and closing doors. So let me show you how this extends. Right back here, let me switch this. I have to switch the code for how this works. Now, I'm going to zoom into this nose gear up here towards the front and show you how this works. So here we go. Alright, so you can see that that opens on the exact same time sequence as these two landing gears back here. So just so you know, the amount of effort it took to sync all of these gears to the same motor was extremely difficult. It took a lot of gear work, a lot of trial and error, a lot of testing. I've been through like 3 sets of batteries so far in that battery box just to be able to do this, and I'm not even done. I still need to get those two doors to work, but we're so close. I'm so close to getting this to work exactly how I wanted it to. So I'm hoping by maybe the next update, maybe the one after that, I need to order special parts to try to do this because I am out of gears and I need a longer axle to get all the way to the front. So yes, that is where I'm at right now. I am pretty happy with this. Again, the reason this hasn't been sculpted yet is because I want to get this all working. Once all the landing gear functionality works down here, then I will go in and I will make this look really smooth and I will sculpt this and I will build in the radome and I'll do the top side. So until I get to that point, it's going to remain kind of naked like this, but that's just more of a matter of getting the mechanical parts of this down before I actually attempt to smooth it out and get working. So yes, that's going to be it for this video, and I hope you enjoyed it, and bye for now.